Okay, here is the speedrun of the Pinball Excel Esports case. I will be using some lambdas and VBA, which you can download at a link in the description. For the first level, we are going to just use the base points, right? So in, bump, base points, and then we're done the first time we hit a bust, right? So just going to look up the bumper on the bumper lookup table, right? Returning on the points. Used F4 to lock those. Actually, I need the total points. All right, so that is the sum of this, with a $sign on one of the rows, right? That will give you my cumulative points. And then we're done. If the bumper is number 10, means you lose your ball. Otherwise, we're not done. So I'll look up being done here. Oh, and also there's another way to be done, which is, or if this is 31, right? After the last bumper, then you're done, even if you never busted, right? So now look up a 1 on done column, returning on the total points. And that's it for level 1. Level 2, all we care about, we're going to add combos, but we're just going to look at 3 bumps. So I only go through, I don't need this stuff. In between base points and total points, I want the multiplier and points for this bump, right? So, the bump points. I'm going to have a bonus buffer over here, which just keeps track. And this is before I put this to the left because it is like it's a precondition to scoring. It's based on the last one, right? So, and before the first one, it's always just 1, right? And in my buffer, the number 1 represents no multiplier. So the multiplier for each bumper is if this is 0, right? Then we just use 1 for no multiplier. Otherwise, it's the base points. And then, so we, take H stack, the old array, right? Well, first, before that, I want the new multiplier and the old array. And I want to take just the left 2 of those, right? That's my bumper. Or I want to take 1 column and 1 row and 2 columns like that. So one more caveat is if the bumper was a bust, then the bumper is cleared out. So we just go back to our generic 1-1 bumper in that case. Otherwise, start building the bumper or the buffer for bonuses. And then the bumper points is if the base points is 0, right? Either a miss or a bust, right? The base points is 0, then 0. Otherwise, the product of the multiplier and the bonus buffer array. Oh, we do that. Stuff I'm not using. Just add up the bumper points. Hopefully I've got my bonuses implemented correctly, right? Level 1 and level 2 are both correct. So now in level 3, we just do the same thing, but, more. So now we're going to go all the way over to CR21. And the bonus buffer rules are the same. These rules are also the same. Do I care about balls? Yes, I do, right? Yes. So how many balls does the player have? They start with 1. If the bumper is, which one? A number 4 is a free ball, right? I'm going to do ifs, right? So if the bumper is a 4, then you get that plus 1. If the bumper is a 10, right, that's a lose a ball, right? So that minus 1. Otherwise, we just carry down the previous number. and then we are done if or, right, this is the last bumper, which is 90, I believe. We'll check, yep, 90, or you have 0 balls left. Either way, we are done. All right, and then total points, right, is just the sum of this with a $ after the second row, right? That is the cumulative points. So I look up a 1 to represent being done on the points. And that should be level 3, which it is. Level 4. Okay, so now what are we adding this time? Acceleration and end of acceleration, right? So during an acceleration event, we can have 4 things multiply, which means our bonus buffer can now be 3, right? So 3 and the new one all get multiplied together, depending on if we're accelerated or not. So if the last bumper, you know, an accelerated, the first, I mean, it always starts at 0, right? Before the first bump at 0. Now, after the first bump, before the second bump, now if the bump is 2, which is acceleration, then it's 1, right? Yes, accelerated is 1. If M25 is 3, end of acceleration, then it's 0. If M25 is a bust, then also 0, because bust ends acceleration. Otherwise, carry down the prior value. That's my acceleration logic. And then if I accelerate, then all I have to do is just do, instead of taking 2 columns, I take 2 plus the acceleration value, right? So I'll take 3 values if it is accelerated, right? And if you bump, right, it clears everything, and you go back to, if you bust, right, then it goes back to just 1, 1 as the bumper. The done rules are the same, total points are the same, right? So I just look up 1 on the done, returning on total points. And that should be level 4, which it is. Okay, so level 5, now we're going to make it a 2-player game. I don't need to track the bonus buffer and accelerate and multiply. I don't need to track those for the 2 players because it's shared. If you bust, then all that resets anyway. So the players can share that. I need to know who the active player is, right? And then what they cannot share is, they can share being done or not, right? But they cannot share the balls. They have their own balls total, and they have their own total points, right? So player 1, player 2, you know, I like to use this for player 1, player 2. Oops. I like to use this for player 1, player 2. So there's player 1, player 2, player 1, player 2 for balls and points, right? Their points start out at 0. And then done, we'll get to in a minute. It's going to change, right? So we're going to do the balls first and total points, then we'll do active players. Active player indicator, right? Player 1 starts, that we know, but the next one will be a little tricky. All right, so for the balls, if, as part of my ifs, right? So if the active player is 2, then I just carry down the balls. Otherwise, I use the regular balls logic, right? And the same thing over here, right? So if the active player is 1, then the balls logic, which is here, right? The previous number just gets carried down. Otherwise, apply the same logic as before. Right, so that should track. Yeah, but it's the same because I haven't finished active player yet. All right, so the total points is not just simple anymore. So if the active player equals 1, then it's the previous one plus the new one. Otherwise, you just carry it down. And then over here for player 2, if it's player 2, right, then it's the previous one plus the new one. Otherwise, you just carry it down. And then being done, right? So I need to know, who's got the best score, right? So because that's the answer, is who has the best score, right? So are you done? So if the max of the of this is 0, both players are out of balls, then we're done. Otherwise, we're not done. All right. So all this is the same going down. Now we got to change the active player, right? Okay, so few reasons the active player could change. So if the and right, so if there's a bump, if it's a bust, right, first of all, and the active player is 1, and player 2 has at least 1 ball left, right, then it switches over from 1 to 2. Okay. If player 1 busts, but player 2 does not have an active ball, then it's still player 1. Player 1 gets to play another ball because player 2's been eliminated, right? If the active player is 2, right, then it switches to 1 not based on R, but based on Q, right? So it switches if the other player has a ball, otherwise it doesn't. So those are the switches. Otherwise, it carries down the previous value. So otherwise, it carries down the previous value. All right, so it tracks these here, and then when we're done, we can look up whoever has the higher score is the answer here. And there's also a done at the end, right? So if or the bump is 90, right? Or if both players are out of balls, then you're done, right? So now let's see if we solve this tricky case or not. Not quite. All right, 75 has an error in it. And we're setting the buffer. 75, the active player switched on the bumper. Let's see if something has gone wrong here. So you're done if that is there. This is the max of these. In this case, we're not done. In this case, we are done because both players are out of balls. This player should not probably have negative balls, right? So what? Well, this player is still playing. So if it's a bust, and the active player is 2, yep, I didn't copy these down, did I? Yep, so that's got to go down, and that's got to go down. Now, let's see if that fixed it. Well, it's better. No, it's not better. This is still wrong. Why is this player going to -1? The active player here is switching. Like, why is player 1 active when player 1 is out of balls? That doesn't make any sense. So if Q30, oh, no, that's because one of these cases is wrong. This is supposed to be a 2. So yeah, if it's player 2's turn, player 2 busts, player 1 is out of balls, so player 2 gets to go again in that case. All right, there we go. So now we've got hopefully 1,000 points and we're ready to do the bonuses. Maximum points scored on a combo. Well, the highest bumper is 100, right? And the maximum combo is 4, so 100 to the 4th is the answer to that one. Total amounts of nominal points in this game, in these games, right? Just the base points. So you use what? Control Shift End to make a little frequency table. And then I just kind of XLOOKUP these on here. I mean, I could sort copy, but you know, it's not really any faster. That, and then some product of how many times they appear and how many points they're worth is there. And then we're going to make a super game. What if you started with unlimited balls and you did all the bumps on level 4? All right, so I'm going to make this bonus 3. And I'm going to start with 999 balls. And instead of this, we're going to make it, whoops, equals 2 call everything in level 4, right? All the bumpers in level 4, not the example, but all the other bumpers. It's here. This gets copied down. This and this have to get copied down to the right place. And I mean, hopefully that's it, right? Let's see. All right, stop timer, 16:54. Thanks for watching.